The sun hasn't even crested the horizon, yet the thermometer already reads 43 degrees Celsius. In just 4 hours, it will climb beyond 60 degrees, turning the Sahara Desert into a furnace that could kill a person in minutes. But for Amara and Fatima, two widows in their late 50s, this isn't a death sentence, it's Tuesday morning. While most of the world sleeps comfortably in air-conditioned homes, these remarkable women are already awake, preparing for another day of impossible survival in one of Earth's most hostile environments. Their story isn't just about endurance, it's about friendship forged in the crucible of abandonment, hope discovered in hopelessness, and the extraordinary lengths the human spirit will go to simply keep beating. Amara's weathered hands move with practiced efficiency as she adjusts the worn fabric covering their makeshift shelter. At 57, her face tells the story of decades spent under the merciless African sun, each line a testament to resilience. Beside her, Fatima, 2 years older and equally seasoned by hardship, carefully rations their precious water supply, 3 liters that must last them through the scorching day ahead. They speak in hushed tones, not from secrecy, but from the deep understanding that energy, like water, must never be wasted. The women didn't choose this life of extreme isolation. 6 months ago, their village of Tinzaouaten, nestled on the border between Mali and Algeria, was abandoned after 3 consecutive years of devastating drought. The wells ran dry, the livestock died, and one by one, families packed what little they could carry and migrated toward distant cities, chasing rumors of work and water. But for Amara and Fatima, recently widowed and deemed too old to contribute to younger family survival, there was no invitation to join the exodus. They were left behind with nothing but each other and an unspoken promise to survive. The morning prayers are always the easiest, Fatima whispers, her Arabic dialect colored by Tuareg influences. Allah's mercy feels closest when the heat hasn't yet stolen our breath. She spreads a small prayer rug, one of their few remaining possessions from their former lives, and both women kneel facing Mecca. Their prayers are simple, practical: gratitude for surviving another night, strength for the day ahead, and protection for the children and grandchildren they may never see again. As the first fingers of sunlight stretch across the endless dunes, the women begin their daily routine with mechanical precision. Every action has been refined through months of trial and error, each movement calculated to conserve energy and maximize their chances of seeing another sunset. Amara checks their water containers, plastic jugs salvaged from the abandoned village, wrapped in layers of cloth to prevent evaporation. Their entire supply amounts to less than what most people use for a single shower. Fatima tends to their small fire, feeding it carefully measured pieces of dried camel dung and scraps of wood. The fire serves multiple purposes: boiling water for purification, cooking their meager meals, and most importantly, signaling to any passing travelers that human life still exists in this forgotten corner of the desert. In 6 months, they've seen exactly 3 vehicles pass in the distance, none close enough to flag down. The women's shelter represents a masterpiece of desert engineering born from necessity. Built against a large rock formation that provides partial shade and wind protection, their home consists of salvaged metal sheets, plastic tarps, and traditional woven mats. The design allows air circulation while blocking the worst of the sandstorms that can arise without warning. Inside, their possessions fit into 2 small bundles: extra clothing, cooking utensils, a battery-powered radio that receives signals sporadically, and a few family photographs wrapped in plastic to protect them from sand and moisture. "Do you remember," Amara says, arranging their breakfast of dates and precious drops of goat milk they managed to extract from their surviving goat, Zura, "when we used to complain about the heat during Ramadan? When we had fans and cold water and shade whenever we wanted it?" Her laugh carries both bitterness and genuine amusement. "We thought we knew what suffering meant." Fatima nods, her eyes distant with memory. "My grandmother always said that Allah tests those he loves most. I used to think that was just something old people said to make sense of hardship. Now I understand. The test isn't the suffering itself, but whether you maintain your humanity while enduring it." By 8 in the morning, the temperature has climbed to 52 degrees Celsius. The women retreat into their shelter, beginning the long wait until late afternoon when the heat might drop enough to allow limited activity. This is the most dangerous time, hours of enforced inactivity when despair can creep in like the relentless heat itself. They've learned to combat this psychological threat with routine and conversation. Amara pulls out a small notebook, its pages yellowed and curling from heat. She's been documenting their daily survival, partly as a practical record of what works and what doesn't, but mainly as proof that their lives matter, that their struggle has meaning. "Day 173, she writes carefully. Zura gave half a cup of milk. The Solar still produced 1 liter of clean water. Fatima's feet are healing well from last week's burns. No aircraft today. The Solar still represents their most crucial innovation, a simple device made from a large plastic sheet, rocks, and a collection container that transforms their own urine and contaminated water into pure drinking water. It was Fatima's idea, remembered from a documentary she'd seen years ago on their village's communal television. The device saves their lives daily, producing just enough clean water to supplement their carefully rationed supply. "Tell me about your wedding again," Fatima requests, settling against the cool rocks. These stories have become their entertainment, their escape, and their connection to the lives they once lived. They've told each other these tales dozens of times, but repetition brings comfort in their isolation. Amara's face softens as she recalls her wedding 40 years earlier. The henna ceremony lasted 3 days. "My sisters painted my hands with such intricate designs. I felt like a queen." Ahmed was so nervous he forgot the words during the ceremony. The imam had to whisper them to him twice. She pauses, touching the simple silver bracelet that remains her only jewelry. "He never stopped being nervous around me, even after 37 years of marriage. Every morning, he'd bring me tea and act surprised when I thank him, as if kindness between spouses wasn't the most natural thing in the world." Fatima listens with the attention of someone who has heard this story many times but finds new comfort in its familiar rhythms. "Ahmed was a good man. He would have found a way to take you with him to the city. He never would have let you face this alone." "Neither would your Hassan," Amara replies gently. "They're probably arguing in paradise right now about whose fault it is that we are suffering down here without them." The thought makes both women smile, a rare moment of genuine lightness in their harsh reality. These conversations serve multiple purposes beyond emotional support. They help maintain their linguistic skills, preserve their memories, and provide mental stimulation that keeps despair at bay. In isolation, the human mind can atrophy as surely as the body, and both women instinctively understand the importance of exercising their thoughts and emotions. As the sun reaches its zenith, the temperature inside their shelter climbs to nearly 45 degrees Celsius despite their precautions. Moving becomes an effort, thinking requires concentration, and every breath feels like inhaling fire. This is when the desert claims most of its victims, when the body's cooling systems fail and dehydration leads to confusion, poor decisions, and ultimately death. But Amara and Fatima have developed strategies for surviving these peak hours. They lie still on mats placed directly on the ground, where the earth stays marginally cooler. They breathe slowly and deliberately, conserving energy and preventing their bodies from overheating through exertion. Most importantly, they talk, quietly, steadily, maintaining the human connection that gives them reason to endure. "I dream about rain," Fatima confesses, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not the gentle rain we used to get during the wet season, but torrential downpours that fill the wadis and make the desert bloom. I dream about standing in it until my skin wrinkles like dates, drinking until my stomach hurts." "I dream about my grandchildren," Amara responds. "Little Aisha would be starting school this year. I wonder if she remembers the lullabies I taught her, or if she thinks I'm dead." The pain in her voice is sharper than the heat. "Sometimes I think the hardest part isn't surviving. It's surviving without knowing if anyone cares whether we live or die." This existential loneliness represents perhaps their greatest challenge. Physical survival, difficult as it is, follows certain rules and responds to human effort. But the psychological burden of abandonment, of feeling forgotten by the world, requires a different kind of strength. The women have found that strength in each other, creating a family of two in the vastness of indifference. Their afternoon routine begins around 4 o'clock when the temperature drops to a merely brutal 55 degrees. Zura, their goat, emerges from her own shelter, a carefully constructed linter that protects her from the worst heat while allowing air circulation. The animal represents their most valuable possession, providing not just milk but companionship and, in desperate circumstances, the possibility of meat. More than that, caring for another living creature gives structure and purpose to their days. Fatima approaches Zura with the patience of someone who understands that rushed movements waste energy and stress animals. "Come, my beauty," she murmurs, offering the goat precious drops of water from her cup hand. "Today we search for the bitter grass that grows near the dead acacia. You'll need strength for tomorrow." The irony isn't lost on either woman. They're preserving an animal's strength while their own ebbs daily. The afternoon foraging expedition represents their most dangerous daily activity. Venturing away from their shelter in extreme heat, searching for the few plants that can survive in such conditions, always carries the risk of disorientation, injury, or simply not having enough energy to return home. But without this search, both they and Zura would starve within days. Armed with a walking stick, a small knife, and a cloth bag, Amara sets off toward a depression in the dunes where occasional rains create slightly more hospitable conditions for plant life. Her knowledge of desert flora, learned through childhood spent in rural areas, has proven invaluable. She can identify edible cacti, locate plants whose roots store water, and distinguish between fruits that provide nutrition and those that could kill them. Fatima remains at the shelter, both to conserve energy and to maintain their base. Separation, even temporarily, terrifies both women, but survival requires calculated risks. She uses this time for maintenance tasks, repairing their shelter from wind damage, organizing their supplies, and most importantly, monitoring the horizon for any signs of passing travelers. The women have developed an elaborate signaling system for potential rescuers. During the day, they maintain a small fire whose smoke might be visible to aircraft or distant travelers. At night, they save their battery-powered flashlight for emergency signals. They've even arranged rocks in patterns that spell out help in both Arabic and French, visible from above if any helicopters or planes pass overhead. In 6 months, no one has responded to their signals, but they maintain hope with the same determination they bring to all aspects of survival. Amara's foraging today yields meager results: a handful of small, bitter fruits from a thorny shrub, several pieces of edible root that must be carefully prepared to avoid toxicity, and some dried grass for Zura. The vegetation she finds shows clear signs of the ongoing drought: smaller leaves, deeper root systems, and the general struggling appearance of plant life pushed beyond its limits. Even the desert's most adapted species are suffering. Returning to their shelter as the sun begins its descent toward the western horizon, Amara finds Fatima engaged in one of their most important daily activities: storytelling to an imaginary audience. And so, Fatima says to the empty desert, the princess discovered that her greatest treasure was not gold or jewels, but the wisdom she'd gained through hardship. This practice serves multiple purposes. It maintains their storytelling traditions, exercises their memories, and provides the comforting illusion that someone, somewhere, is listening to their voices. Evening brings the day's most blessed relief as temperatures finally drop below 50 degrees Celsius. This is when the women can move freely, think clearly, and attend to tasks requiring concentration and energy. They prepare their evening meal, a careful combination of their scavenged plants, a small portion of rice from their dwindling stores, and cups of tea that taste like liquid gold in their parched throats. Their cooking fire, small but efficiently built, provides warmth against the surprising chill that desert nights can bring. The temperature differential between day and night in the Sahara can exceed 30 degrees, and their bodies, stressed by extreme heat, struggle to adapt to rapid cooling. They've learned to dress in layers, adding and removing clothing as conditions change. The radio worked for 10 minutes today, Fatima reports, referring to their sporadic connection to the outside world. I heard news from Bamako. They're expecting good rains this year. And there was music, that Lebanese singer we used to hear at weddings. She doesn't mention that the same broadcast reported increasing numbers of climate refugees or the growing instability in their region. Some news is too heavy to bear when survival requires optimism. As darkness falls, the desert transforms from furnace to refrigerator with startling speed. The women pull their sleeping mats close together, not just for warmth but for the psychological comfort of human presence in the vast emptiness. Above them, the Saharan sky reveals itself in spectacular glory, millions of stars visible in the absence of light pollution, the Milky Way stretching across the heavens like a river of light. My Hassan used to say that every star was someone who had loved deeply and completely, Fatima murmurs, gazing upward. He said that's why the sky was so bright in the desert, because love doesn't die, it just changes form and watches over us from above. Then we are surrounded by love, Amara responds, pulling her thin blanket closer. All those stars, all those people who cared enough to keep shining. Maybe that's why we are still here, because someone's love is keeping us alive. This conversation, like so many others, serves as both comfort and philosophy. The women have developed a sophisticated worldview that encompasses their Islamic faith, traditional Tuareg beliefs, and hard-won personal wisdom. They don't see themselves as victims but as witnesses, not as abandoned but as chosen to experience something profound about human resilience. Their sleeping arrangements reflect both practical necessity and emotional need. They position themselves to share body heat while maintaining dignity and personal space. One woman always stays partially awake during the night, both to tend their small fire and to watch for the dangers that darkness can bring. Wild animals, sudden weather changes, or the disorientation that can lead to wandering away from safety. Night sounds in the desert carry special significance for the women. The distant call of jackals suggests the presence of water somewhere in the region. The rustle of small creatures indicates edible insects or plants that might supplement their diet. Most importantly, any mechanical sounds, the distant drone of aircraft, the rumble of vehicles, represent potential rescue or at least proof that they haven't been completely forgotten by the world. During one such night watch, approximately 4 months into their ordeal, Amara experienced what she later described as a vision or dream so vivid it seemed like reality. She saw a green valley filled with running water, date palms heavy with fruit, and their deceased husbands beckoning to them from across a crystal stream. The temptation to walk toward this paradise felt overwhelming, and only Fatima's gentle touch on her shoulder brought her back to the harsh reality of their shelter. It wasn't time yet, Amara told her friend the next morning. They were calling, but it wasn't time. Something is keeping us here, some purpose we haven't fulfilled yet. This experience marked a turning point in their survival story. Rather than seeing their continued existence as mere endurance, they began to view it as meaningful in itself. They were preserving something, their stories, their knowledge, their demonstration that human dignity could survive even the most extreme circumstances. They became, in their own minds, guardians of something precious that needed witnessing. Morning routine on day 174 begins before dawn, as it has for months. But today brings something different, a sound that makes both women freeze in disbelief. The distant rumble of a large vehicle, growing steadily louder, approaching from the northwest. They've heard this phantom sound before, mirages of hope that turned out to be wind or their own desperate imaginations. But this time is different. This time, Zura hears it too, lifting her head and bleeding nervously. Fatima scrambles for their emergency signal mirror, a piece of polished metal salvaged from the abandoned village. Her hands shake as she attempts to catch the early morning sunlight and direct it toward the approaching sound. Amara grabs their brightest cloth, a red headscarf that has become faded but still retains some color, and begins waving it frantically above their shelter. The vehicle that finally crests the distant dune looks like something from a dream, a United Nations relief truck, white with blue lettering, moving slowly across the desert in their direction. 2 men in the cab spot their signals and change course, driving directly toward their camp. As the truck draws closer, both women begin to cry, deep, racking sobs that release months of accumulated fear, loneliness, and desperate hope. The rescue team consists of Ahmed, coincidentally sharing a name with Amara's deceased husband, and Jean-Baptiste, relief workers conducting a survey of abandoned settlements in the region. They've been searching for survivors, documenting the human cost of climate change and drought. Finding 2 women not just alive but maintaining their dignity and humanity after 6 months of extreme survival represents something unprecedented in their experience. How? Is Jean-Baptiste's first word as he surveys their sophisticated shelter, their careful water management system, their obvious organization and planning. His French-accented Arabic conveys amazement rather than mere curiosity. How did you survive here? Our instruments show temperatures exceeding 60 degrees regularly. Most people couldn't last a week in these conditions. Amara and Fatima exchange glances, communicating in the wordless language they've developed over months of intimate survival. How do they explain that they survived through love, love for each other, love for their deceased husbands, love for the grandchildren they might never see again, and ultimately love for life itself, even when life became almost unbearably difficult? We had each other, Fatima says simply. And we had reasons to keep living. Every morning, we chose to see another sunset. Every sunset, we chose to see another sunrise. One choice at a time, one day at a time. The rescue workers offer immediate medical attention, food, and transportation to refugee camps where the women might find their scattered family members. But as they pack their few possessions, both Amara and Fatima feel an unexpected reluctance to leave. This place of suffering has also been a place of profound discovery, about their own strength, about the depth of human connection, about what truly matters when everything else is stripped away. Will you tell our story? Amara asks Ahmed as he helps her into the truck. Will you help people understand that we weren't just surviving? We were living? We loved, we prayed, we laughed, we took care of each other. We remained human. Ahmed nods, understanding that he's witnessed something extraordinary. These women haven't just survived impossible conditions. They've demonstrated that the human spirit, when supported by love and purpose, can endure anything. Their story isn't just about desert survival. It's about the survival of hope, dignity, and compassion in circumstances designed to destroy all three. As the truck pulls away from their camp, heading toward an uncertain but hopeful future, both women turn for one last look at the place that nearly killed them but ultimately revealed their strength. The shelter they built still stands, a testament to human ingenuity and determination. The solar still continues producing clean water from contaminated sources. And somewhere in the cooling ashes of their final fire, the story of two widows who refused to surrender their humanity continues to echo across the endless sands. 6 months later, Amara and Fatima have been reunited with scattered family members in a refugee settlement outside Bamako, Mali's capital. They share a small apartment, continue to pray together each morning, and have become local celebrities for their survival story. More importantly, they've begun teaching other displaced women the practical skills they learned in the desert: water purification, shelter construction, food preservation, and most crucially, how to maintain hope when hope seems impossible. Their friendship, forged in the crucible of abandonment and tested in temperatures that regularly kill, has become legendary in their community. Young couples seek their blessing, believing that love witnessed by such profound survival will endure any hardship. They're frequently asked to speak to aid organizations about the reality of climate refugees, bringing human faces to global statistics. But perhaps their most important legacy lies in the simple truth they embodied during those impossible months: that human dignity isn't determined by circumstances, that love can flourish even in the harshest conditions, and that sometimes the most profound victories are measured not in conquering challenges but in maintaining one's humanity while enduring them. When asked what kept them alive when survival seemed impossible, both women give the same answer: each other. And the certainty that our story needed to be told, that someone needed to witness what happens when the world seems to forget you exist. We survived so you would know that even in the worst circumstances, people can choose love over despair, hope over surrender, and community over isolation. Their story continues to inspire relief workers, climate researchers, and ordinary people facing their own seemingly impossible challenges. In a world increasingly divided by differences, Amara and Fatima demonstrate the power of human connection to overcome the harshest realities. Their 6 months in the Sahara weren't just about surviving extreme heat. They were about discovering what it truly means to be human when humanity is tested to its very limits. If their story has moved you, if their demonstration of friendship and resilience in impossible circumstances has touched your heart, please share it with others who might need to hear that human dignity and love can survive anything. Their voices, once crying out in the desert wilderness, now echo across the world, reminding us all that we are stronger together than we ever imagined possible alone.